About our next guest.
Yes.
We've talked on numerous occasions, and he's a newly married man of God.
He's been booed up.
Yeah, and but he's done so much in the realm of his profession as a psychologist, excuse me. You've probably seen him as an expert on ABC Nightline. He's been on CNN as expert, as they call him, in on time to time, and right now he's currently serves as a consultant for the NBA on player development, relationship, and family issues. Please welcome to the show my friend Dr. Aldwan Tartt.
Amen.
Dr. Tartt, thank you so much, man.
How y'all doing?
How you doing?
I'm glad to see y'all still not behaving, but that's okay. That's why I had to come back.
Yeah. I'm just amazed with. I've always told you when we've talked. Respect the calling on your life, what God has given you. And you're one of the guys I've seen to really go in that lane. God has called you to do something. You've done that, and you've studied, and you've asked him for direction. Talk to us a little bit briefly about what God is doing with you this season, because you have something new going on. It's phenomenal.
But first, we have to give a shout out.
Yeah.
All right, see, that's a little warning. Y'all helping me out. I want to say a shout out to my wife, Becca, right?
Amen.
And also to my daughter, Raquel, who is watching as well.
Great.
So, so you're right. Thank you for keeping
welcome.
me out the doghouse before I really even have time to get in it. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
I am enjoying the married life. Yes, I am.
That's
great.
All the grapes, the back rubs, the foot. That's great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
She hooking you up.
Okay, you know that's not true.
Yeah,
That's good though. That's good.
I like the back rub part.
Right.
The feet, it gets to a point.
Hard, you should take care of your man. Isn't that right,
That's
Regina?
right. That's right, Dr. Tartt. Exactly. So talk to us of where God is taking you now. You're following his leading.
Yeah, God has put it, it's been scary. He's talked to me about merging mental health and ministry.
Wow.
I've had the opportunity to give the word at a couple of churches, and I enjoyed it. When pastors call me and say they want me to come in, I said, I'm a psychologist. And they were like, we prayed about it, we want you to come in. And so I've prayed about the word, and I've talked about pain and parenting and relationships and helping people to move on their visions, and I've really enjoyed it. So, this next season is me purposely contacting churches and receiving that to purposely build mental health and life coaching in the churches. Think about it. We go on Sunday, right? And we hear the word, and we start writing down our visions and our goals and know we need to transform. But what happens by like Tuesday?
Right. Right, exactly.
With the implementation, we know what to do, but like the intercessor was saying before, how do you pray? How do you move forward? How do you actually do it? And so I realized that's where mental health professionals can come in, and Christian counselors can come in and say, all right, here's the A to Z to help you to get from where you are now to where God has called you to be, because that walk can be lonely without a prayer partner, someone guiding you. So.
And people may say, really? Merge mental health and ministry? Yeah, a lot of wounded people sit in the church, secretly wounded, and have things going on mentally, but are afraid to share it because it's like it's embarrassing. I'm in church, so I shouldn't have anything going on here.
Talk to a single pastor that does not tell you they don't get calls every single day about mental health issues. And so I can help you with your walk with the Lord, but I can't help with bipolar and ADHD and incest and rape and abuse and just anxiety disorders and depression and transformation. All the things that need to happen, they are screaming for us. And so we have to do a better job of finding that. And especially as African Americans, the people raised in the South, the church has always been the #1 place where we come for those issues. The church is like a hospital now, like a life coaching ground. So I want to do my job and what God has called me to do, to put in systems, especially for pastors out there who feel like they have to do it all by themselves. I want to help them to put in a system, a team of life coaches or Christian counselors to help take some of the weight off their shoulders.
Before, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but when you said that...
Yes, you do.
We'll make up for it later. Listen, but when you said for pastors, because there have been many pastors that have taken their own lives. So would you incorporate them? Have something where for pastors, because they don't always want to tell what's going on because they're supposed to not have anything going on.
Well, where does the counselor go for counseling? You know, if you're supposed to be the helper, where can you go to admit that you need help? You know, and so I actually did a workshop for ministers and their spouses, you know, out of St. Simon, and that's what we talked about, keeping their relationships together. Because when you have, especially in today and age, when you have a man and a woman that might be co-pastors, you know, if they split, the church dies. That's a lot of pressure. But you know, for being happily married, it's a lot of work. Just because you minister at church doesn't mean you don't need to work on your relationship. And they have the same stress as people in the NBA and celebrities because they're constantly traveling. They're constantly out and about. They're constantly being approached. You know, in the church, just because you're the pastor doesn't mean that women will not approach you. So that's a lot of temptation for them to deal with, a lot of stress. And so I just offer, you know, myself and my colleagues and being able to help them, you know. And of course, I get a free session too. So, I know about you. Let's talk about what's going on in my life. So.
You know, you say something that's really, it just seems like, how come it's taken so long for this to take place in the ministry? And why was it, in your eyes or your opinion, why do you think it was taboo so long ago? Like, we can't talk about that in the church. We don't deal with that in the church. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I think there's a stigma. There's that psychology means that you're crazy. All right. And then as psychologists, we weren't taught until very recently to really merge ministry. How can you really heal without being in contact with the healer? And so I don't think as psychologists we've been as verbal about that as we should, because you know, we might be taught, okay, don't push your faith on others, but there's not a single psychologist out there that can't tell you what. Sometimes I can't tell you how I know what I know. Sometimes you have to go in prayer. Now, there are different perspectives out there, but you'll see that market starting to grow. It is already huge, and there are churches that already have, you know, Christian counseling, life coaches already merged within their ministry because people are asking for it. They want to come to the church. Now, sometimes not necessarily in the church because they don't want this, but satellites offices that are affiliated with churches. So I think that's part of my job, is to be part of one of those faces that say, hey, you know, psychology, counseling, social work, and ministry, they go together. God is a counselor, so he's going to bring in other counselors to do his will.
He's a wonderful counselor. My God, yes, he is. It's just so, it's really needed now. People are afraid, and they're, with what you were saying with marriages, not just pastors and their spouses, but sitting in the church, smiling in the church, but not talking in the car on the way home, not talking in the house, sleeping in separate rooms, in the church. And so I think we really need to delve deeper into that.
I know you're right. People have to talk. How do you make relationships work? Now that we're in it, now the honeymoon is worn off, okay? What do we do? And I see a lot of couples that don't date. They get caught up with the family, they get caught up in work, they get caught up in money struggles, and they forget to do what they did in the very beginning to make the marriage work. So that means that you have to date. It has to be scheduled. Thursday night is date night in my house. Because if you don't have it scheduled, you'll look at each other and say, well, you know what, on Thursday I have this meeting, on Thursday the kids have this. It has to be scheduled, because you need time to actually connect so that you like each other. If you don't spend time with each other, you'll find yourself not liking your partner and starting to argue over little things. And what we spend time on grows. So as psychologists, we know a lot about how to make marriage work. We know about the science. We know about, this is what happily married couples do, all right? This is what unhappily married couples do. And I think now it's time for us to take that teaching to the church, to be the meat, if you will. Well, I can't even say meat because my wife is pescatarian. I mean, she only eats seafood, so I haven't had meat in a while, so that's making me a little sad. But That's all right. I'm going to live longer. And so we're going to roll with that. Thank God for mama.
All right.
But to be that substance, to say, all right, this is how you implement it. Yeah, I know you want to work through an affair. I know you want to work through not connecting. I know you want to work through being bored, you know. But how do you do that? And so I think it's our job and our calling to merge with the church to be able to do that. And I'm excited about it.
I was just thinking about, what if the couples work together in ministry, like pastors and co-pastors, where they're together all the time? How do they date? How do they make sure their relationship stays where it needs to be?
And see, all right, so I'm not talking about you all, but the challenge is you can't work all the time. Your primary responsibility is to your husband, your wife, and to your children. And so those have to be scheduled. You have to start with that first. That's my advice. Start with your relationship first. When is date night? All right, when are we going to talk? When are we going to connect? When are we going to dream build together? All right, when are we going to spend time with the kids? Then work. What we do is we flip it around opposite, is that we'll start with work and say, oh, we haven't been on a date, we haven't been on vacation, haven't taken you to that new restaurant, you know, that serves a lot of meat, you know, we haven't taken you to that. So you have to build those times, because those couples have, just because you're in ministry together doesn't mean that you don't have to do the things that all couples have to do. You have to date. The band that travels, that husband and wife, I can guarantee she's over there nudging him, yes, baby, we need to date. Right? We have to spend time dating, because when you spend time dating, you're really building and connecting that relationship. You know, I went to a guy for our premarital counselor. His name is Dr. Kenny Felix, and he talks about marriage as an edifice that needs to be rebuilt every single day. As you all know, what we did last week doesn't count. I've learned that, but I just took you out 2 weeks ago. It doesn't count. All right, we have to do that on a consistent basis to show our love. Love is a verb. Boy, I know I'm gonna get my text about to light up for my wife in a few minutes.
Action.
Where we going tomorrow?
Action. Well, verbs are action words.
That's right.
And so marriage, you have to put forth the effort. I mean, we talk, and when we talk to couples and stuff, we talk about as far as men in the marriage and God calling the men. And if God would die for the church, would you really die for your bride? And to take that and to run with it as men, to really stand up and be called for what we have to do as men in a marriage. Not just, oh, I'm the head of the house, but to be called to honestly do what God called for us to do as men.
You know, I can tell you one thing that I learned so far is they say happy, you know, wife, happy life. I heard that in my mind, like, what about happy husband, you know? But now I get it, because there's so many things that God has put on me, and I have someone that I can talk to, someone that's actually prayed before I even come to her, so that when she's talking, I can actually trust her word. If I can't see something, she's already seen it, and she's helping me to be practical. I was like, what if I just go right into the ministry? And she was like, well, why don't you just merge that into what you're doing? I was like, okay, I didn't think about that. It's much more practical. So when you have a wife that's praying for you, that proverbial rib, then you're a lot smarter as a man. And so all the single men out there, you need to pick wisely and get a wise woman that's full of God, that can actually pray to you, to tell you no when you need to hear no, and tell you to go when it's time to go. You know, it makes you stronger as a man, because sometimes you don't, I'm gonna be transparent, sometimes you don't believe in yourself. You know, I'm not sure if God called me. I'm looking at my personality and things that I've done, and my friends in Morehouse, like, he giving the word? Wait,
I remember you.
You know, and so I was like, if God is calling me to do this, you know, I'm gonna do it. So sometimes you just move because she sees something that God sees in you. And so that's the power of a praying woman. So I'm happy right now.
How can we find out more about Dr. Tartt? If churches are out there right now that really need your services, how can we find out more?
They can go to my website at drtartt.com and read up about me and pray about it and ask. God wants me to call them in, or some of my colleagues. And then they can also call the office at 404-377-4757 or follow me. I'm one of those social media docs, so they can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Tartt, on Facebook, Instagram, Kick, Snapchat. I'm just playing. Kicks
Do it for the
kids,
fire.
right? But no, I mean, whatever way, you know, because God uses quickly social media to reach so many people. I was playing around with it, and then people get the word. I've connected with so many people. So, you know, that's what my calling is, and I'm just proud that I could be here. And you all serve as, you know, a living example of marriage and
Thank God.
staying happy and working together.
Thank
you.
God.
We want to thank you for
Yes.
joining us, taking time out of your schedule. I know that you're busy. And tell your wife we said hey.
Hi,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and you know, I'm so excited because he said he took his own self there. He said his wife is his rib,
Yes.
that meat
Yeah.
that he's been missing.
Yeah, yeah.
But praise God, she's going to satisfy him in that area. Praise God. We thank God for Dr. Tartt. We're going to take you back to the